We're back with some more gameplay footage for you guys, but this time we're taking a walk in the VR space with Walking Dead, Saints and Sinners. Joining me today is the fantastic Steve. How you doing, Steve?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Before we get into it, why don't you tell our viewers a little bit about what you actually do here at Greenman Gaming?
Yeah, I'm a senior digital designer. I work on a lot of the promos that we run continuously. All of the games that come in all need new assets. Also work continuously on visual upgrades to the site and to some of the other things that we run, like the blog.
Yeah, and I know I bother you regularly for social media stuff and things like that. Always wonderful. It's always the moments when I'm like, I have a great idea.
Yeah,
help!
come running over. They're pretty cool briefs, to be fair. Some of them are original ones.
Yeah, at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, before we get carried away, we're taking a look at Walking Dead, Saints and Sinners. This is some of your gameplay which you recorded for us generously.
This is one of my first playthroughs on the game. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, why don't we jump straight in? Roll the clip.
Okay.
All right, so jumping straight in, first question, which I know a lot of people are going to be asking, is what VR system are you using?
I am using the original Oculus Rift.
Brilliant. And this is a VR-only game?
VR only, yeah. There's a lot of reasons for that. One of the big reasons to play it is the actual physical interactivity of the game. Yeah.
Absolutely. And yeah, why don't you tell us a little bit about the studio behind it and tell us about the game?
Yeah, so it's developed and published by Skydance Interactive. They were known previously for Archangel Hellfire, which was like a mech-based multiplayer shooter. I think it had a storyline as well, actually. Yeah, and this feels like one of that's the first game they've really had an opportunity to really spread their wings and create a really fantastic and in-your-face storyline. And yeah, so that's what they've done. It's a first-person shooter, zombie apocalypse, absolutely terrifying experience. Yeah, you have to sort of scavenge your way through the game, deal with your inventory. There's a lot of inventory management, so and survive this horrible new world.
So do you think it is has a lot of sort of survival elements to it?
Yeah, so a lot of people consider it more of a survival game than a horror game, really, and it's definitely a bit of both. I'm terrified every time I play it. So you have to manage your inventory to the point where you have to decide what you do on a daily basis. So you're given, when you start a raid, basically, you go in and you're given a day. And what you do with that time is up to you, but you can advance with quests if you like, or you can go on a scavenging mission. So you've got to decide how you set yourself up for that day. So you've got a backpack. You might want to keep that almost completely empty so that you can go out, get supplies, come back, and then there's like a whole crafting system and all sorts of stuff that you can do. Or you might want to really weapon up and come in with everything that you've got because you've got a quest to complete, and that's really your focus. So there's a bit of strategy involved like that as well.
What's the kind of weapon system like? What kind of things are you using as weapons? Is it mostly kind of like guns and AK-47s, M14s, all that good stuff? Or is it more of a scavenger, like a survival game, where you're using whatever you can find?
There's a bit of both. There are definitely guns in the game. Yeah. And the weapon selection is really cool. There's a lot of stuff. Yeah. And the whole point of it really is that you will, pretty regularly, like you're about to see actually here, use whatever you can find in the world because there's a durability system to the weapons. Yeah. So I saw this and I thought this looks like a good weapon as any. Although it wasn't explosive, I assumed it wasn't going to blow up as I used it, but which I'm glad it didn't.
Brilliant.
It wasn't fatal, but it was worth a go. So yeah, there's a durability system. You need to take care of all of your weapons. You're often using knives and blunt weapons like that because you don't want to make a lot of noise. You can definitely use weapons. You find a lot of them. You start off with sort of double barrel shotguns and things like that are quite really satisfying to use. But you don't want to go in guns blazing most of the time because it makes a lot of noise and it's basically ringing a dinner bell for zombies when you're firing shotguns.
Absolutely. So in terms of like the Walking Dead franchise, how close does this sort of follow with the way that like the TV show and the comic books kind of paint the world? Is it similarly to the TV show kind of more about the human danger of this world now, or does it focus more on the horror element with the zombies?
Yeah, so there are interesting parallels with the TV show, actually. You're introduced to the human element almost immediately, but through the story, not through the gameplay. So this is the first mission that you'll go on, and there's very little human interaction, and those are more of just quest lines. You know that there's humans out there, and they're terrible, but first you have to learn to deal with zombies, which is what happens in the show. The first time you see a zombie, it's awful, and you look at them and they're disgusting, and you think, how is anyone going to survive in this world? But then you start to understand that the way you survive in this world is dealing with the numbers of them. So you can deal with a couple of zombies, that's not really a big issue. It's dealing with hordes of them that's an issue, and then later on realizing that people can be worse than zombies in this world.
Can you, like in the TV show, I think it was season 3 they showed for the first time, can you use a Maglite torch as a silencer?
I haven't got quite that far yet. It wouldn't surprise me. There's quite a lot of interaction.
I'll never forget seeing that in the TV show. Just be like, sorry, what?
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
So yeah, what would you say is then your kind of like favorite mechanic in the game that really kind of stands out for you? Is like, wow, this is awesome.
So really, I'm not a huge fan of durability on weapons, and this
Okay.
is probably the first game I've ever played where actually I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Because it adds so much more to the world. Like you're constantly using. They have a decent amount of uses out of them before they break, but
Yeah.
at some point they are going to break, and that's a terrifying moment. A lot of other horror games that I'll play, they're more sort of story-driven, on the rails, jump scare kind of games, and they're pretty good. They're pretty entertaining. But what this does really well is make you manage your weapons to the point where you've always got anxiety about using them. You know they're going to save your life, but if they give up at the wrong point, that's awful, and you're always on edge. So a lot of the game is you looting through drawers. The world is quite interactable, looting through drawers, and then hearing a creaking floorboard, and then quickly turning around. Your heart starts racing. So it does looting and weapon management in a really enjoyable way that I don't enjoy in many other games.
Well, I know one of the things that a lot of people in our community have been asking about this actually is how much of an open world game this actually is.
Yeah.
Is it sort of like completely open world where you're just roaming around, sort of doing your thing, or does it kind of set you on more linear paths?
Yeah. So it's not completely open world like a Fallout game or something. It's open world enough in that you're dropped into basically a raid. In the beginning of the game, you're given this shelter, you inherit it, and then you choose you use these skiffs to move on a map from area to area. And once you're in, you can basically go in any direction you want, but it is a zone that you're in. There's lots of different ways, there's lots of different alleys, there's lots of different roads that you can take. But it's quite a sort of crafted experience. It's not completely open world, but you're given enough options for it to feel like not just an on the rails linear shooter.
So it's more you're going to different zones and then you can explore openly within those zones.
Yeah.
Are the zones connected elsewhere, or do you have to like come back to the main base to go to different?
So once you've reached the skiff is your way of using canals and water systems and stuff to get around.
Okay.
So you can get around quite a lot, but getting from skiff to skiff, from in between, these maps is the issue, because that's where you're really traversing a lot of the world.
Okay. And then once you're kind of like in these zones or you go on these missions, is it kind of like you just have open amount of time to do your thing, or is there like a day
No,
cycle?
so that's a really interesting feature. You go in, and the woman at the beginning there explained that you have a watch, and you've synced it to the bells, which are basically, I guess, midnight. And as soon as they ring, that's when you know you're in trouble. So you can traverse the world and you can deal with zombies, and you might get caught out from time to time. But if you stay in that raid for too long and those bells start ringing, then you're gonna be in trouble. It's what happens at the end of this clip. Actually, it's worth sticking around to watch it. It's where it really steps into overdrive.
Yeah.
So the number of zombies multiply. They get more aggressive. You've basically got to try and find your way out, but you start to get surrounded. And interestingly, once you complete the raid, you have to decide how you deal with your days, because supplies will dwindle at the end of the night and the dead will multiply. So you have to make the most of your days. You have to really make progress. You can't muck around too much, and that keeps you on edge quite a lot, which is quite good. So the next day, you see me finding quite a lot. In every drawer, there seems to be something, but the next day there'll be much less. And there'll be more zombies. So
every day the world is getting harder and harder to survive.
Every single time. Hopefully there's a crafting mechanic. You find more stuff. You become more prepared for it. But as you become more prepared, it becomes more brutal.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome. Coming back to VR, this is available on all VR headsets, right?
Yeah, that's on everything, I believe. Yeah.
Does it have? Do you know if it has for like the Vive hand tracker? If it's got like the full finger controls?
I think it has index tracking, which is pretty cool as for an immersion standpoint.
Yeah.
But actually brings me to another point that is pretty interesting, is that on all headsets, as long as they've got a microphone, which I believe they'll do, it does clever things like if you shout out in the game or you cough or something, like in this attic as well, if you cough, you'll hear an echo back of yourself, which is pretty cool and pretty immersive. Like, I've never experienced that before. It really helped me plant the idea that I'm in this world.
Yeah.
And I think it can even attract zombies to your location if you're not careful, which is pretty cool. So they've done what they can actually with.
That's be a nightmare for anyone who tries to stream this.
Right, yeah.
Trying to talk to the audience at the same time. It's like, shh, guys, quiet, busy. The zombies are coming.
Silent streams. ASMR streams.
Brilliant. Well, we're going to leave you guys with the rest of the footage. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, as well as check out all our other social medias in the info below. Take care.
Is it over?
I recovered the ring.
Thank you. This means the world to me. The only reminder of life before all of this. Reuben was a good husband and an amazing father.
Hold on to the good memories. They will keep you sane.
I will. Here's the code to the safe as promised. I hope that whatever's inside will prove useful. Safe journey.
Ugh!